Hello, good morning. We're good now. um, Welcome everyone to this live French beaded daisy jewelry class. Hello. Okay, I had to end the stream earlier because I noticed it was at a poor quality. So I was on for just a few seconds, came back. So hopefully we are back on. And usually the Facebook group, well, for the past couple of weeks, the Facebook group has been working, but it is currently not. So we are currently live on YouTube, currently live in the French Beaded Flowers. We are currently live in the Bead Floor Studio Facebook page. And, oh, okay. And now the Facebook group is deciding to work. So, yay. Woo! It's working. So yay. Hello. Good morning. All right. So let's start over. Facebook group is on. So good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm Fen. I'll be your instructor today, and we'll be learning how to make French beaded flower jewelry. This is something that in the past, when we're making jewelry, it's a little bit hard because we have all these wires that we're dealing with, right? And all those wires causes your jewelry to be a lot bulkier. And in this class, I want to show you techniques that I've came up with that not only will you not have to deal with all these bulky wires, everything will be seamless. So excited to show you these techniques. So hello, good morning. Today is January 17th. Right now it's 10:03 a.m. Central Standard Time right here in the Midwest. It is quite balmy, not so cold anymore. So I've been going out in my snow pants almost every day to take my kids to the bus stop, but not today. No. Did I wear snow pants? I did because I can't stand the cold. I cannot. Anyways, but yes, nice and balmy today. 30 some degrees. So yay, good weather. Okay, looks like if you are just joining me, say hi. Let me know where you're watching from. It looks like we have Myra joining us here. So good morning. Okay, if you are watching from YouTube, watching from the Facebook group or page, let me know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And hope you're all ready to make some French beaded flower jewelry. Okay. So if you are in the Facebook group, the Learn How to Make French Beaded Flowers Facebook group, I've uploaded the PDF to the files. If you are in my mailing list, I have emailed you the PDF. So guys, if you want to have the PDF, please join the group or join my mailing list. Okay. And for those that have purchased the PDF, you will get continued access to the replay. You will continue to get access to replay. For those who have not purchased the PDF, the replay will be deleted at the end of the month. Maybe I'll let you watch it a little bit longer since I started mid-month, but it will be deleted and the PDFs will be deleted as well. But if you purchase the PDF, you will get continued access. And let me get the link up. So if you want to get the PDF or the kit, you still have time. Use your phone and take a picture of that QR code right there on the screen. And if you like to join our Facebook group, the Learn How to Make French Beaded Flowers Facebook group, take a picture of that QR code and you can join me there. So you can either go on facebook.com and search for the group or use the QR code, take a picture of the QR code with your phone and you should be able to access it that way. All right, we have more people joining us here. We have Louise and Deanne. Hello. Okay, Deanne is also in Wisconsin. Nice balmy 33 degrees. Yay, Fahrenheit. That's Fahrenheit, guys. not Celsius. We are in the US. We go by Fahrenheit. Okay, Louise from the Netherlands. Hello, good evening. Okay, so you guys have the PDF? Okay, so let's go over what we need for making the French beaded flower bracelet. We're making the bracelet today. And you see I have the ring. I'll be showing you how to make this on January 29th. Okay, so we will need 25 grams of, well, this is for all the jewelry. We'll need size 11 white seed beads. That's for the petals. We'll need 25 grams of that for the bracelet, necklace, and ring. That should be enough for all that. And we will need 10 grams of yellow beads, size 11 yellow beads. Let me switch back right here. Sorry. Okay, and also size 11 green seed beads. Now with well, daisies, they're pretty basic. You have your basic white, basic yellow, and green. So you can use any finish you like. So you don't need to use just the beads that I'm using. You can use whatever beads you want. But if you really want to use the beads that I'm using Matsuno Dynamite Ceylon White. This is Matsuno Dynamite Matte Yellow. And this is Matsuno Dynamite, what is this? Transparent Emerald Green. Rainbow Transparent Emerald Green. That's a mouthful. Okay, so I'm using size 11 beads. And for the wire, we'll be using 26 gauge wire. Now, we do want to use 26 gauge wire because this is a smaller flower. Now, I get questions on, okay, so Fen, some of you have asked, okay, Fen, okay, so size 11 seed beads, the whole size is the same. Why do you need to use all these different gauges of wire, even though the beads are the same? And guys, the reason why we're using specific wire gauges is based on the size of the units, size that we're making, the flowers that we're making. It's not the whole size. It's, yes, we can fit all these beads will go through size. We'll go through 30 gauge, it'll go through 28 gauge, it'll go through 26 and 24 and 22 gauges. Size 11 beads will go through all of those wires, but we need the specific gauges for the size of the flowers we're using, depending on the size of the units to get, well, for one, we need to be able to manipulate the wire easily. And if we are using, for example, 22 gauge wire for the flowers that we're making for the jewelry, it will not be able to bend that easily. Even for 24 gauge wire, if we're using 24 gauge wire for this project, maybe it'll be doable for some of the larger units, but not for all. So for this project, I do recommend 26 gauge wire. I do not recommend any other gauge besides 26 gauge wire. And a lot of my patterns, I will give you substitutes, and I'll give you reasons on why you could substitute it, but you might have some problems. But if that's all the wire that you have, it's possible to use those wires, but not all the time. So today, I don't recommend any other gauge besides 26 gauge wire. For maybe the bigger units, you can, but for the bracelet, today we will be using just 26 gauge wire, nothing else. Okay, so I'll be using silver wire because, well, because we are using the wires using all of these beads. We're stringing all of the sorry. I'll be stringing, need to take a breath, right? I'll be stringing all of these beads on this one wire. We're not using different colored beads like we normally do when we're making French beaded flowers traditionally, right? So we do want to use a neutral wire. With jewelry, sometimes we like silver, sometimes we like gold. So if you like silver, use silver. If you like gold jewelry, use gold jewelry, or maybe even copper. But I do want to use a more neutral wire, depending on the beads you're using, right? If you use a more transparent color, and for example, and you're using red wire or something, the green might not show that well. The green wire might not show that well on the red wire if you're making a red flower for your jewelry. So those are the things that we need to think about. All right, with all that out of the way, let's get started. Okay, let's see who. Oh, it looks like we've got Natia joining us from Germany. Hello. And Lois joining us also from Wisconsin. Hello. And Myra in Florida, a nice 60 degrees out there. And for me, I think 60 for us here in the Midwest is nice and it's warm. People are out in shorts in the nice balmy 33 degrees. But 60, it would be like heat wave over here. Well, 30s is a heat wave because it was like in the single digits last week. So grr. Okay, so where I live, I'm not made to live here. 60s will be still cold for me. I'm just saying for people here, it's warm, but for me, it's not. But as you can see, I am not bundled in my normal uniform. So that's a plus, a step in the right direction. So, okay. So I have the 3 beads already in my bead spinners. And these are the bead spinners that I currently have on sale on my website. These are the Bead Floor bead spinners. I want to show you real quick. I'm using these a little bit different today than how I normally do. When I have more than one color, if you have more than one bead spinner, if you have just one bead spinner, then you would dump it out and put it in a container and then, use your one bead spinner. But if you have more than one, this is what I like to do. I like to have the base. This is the base of my bead spinner, or this is the bead spinner, how it is, right? So I want to show you how it is normally that I would use it. Go. Let me put so if you guys want to purchase these bead spinners, you can take a picture of the QR code there and it'll take you to the page of where to get the bead spinners. Or you can go into beadfloor.com and you'll see the links there. Okay. All right. So we have the shaft here. I just want to show you that it comes off. Attach, put it back on. And then this is how we would use the bead spinner normally. But the way that I've been using it, because I have so many colors, I've been using it a little bit differently. And Louise says, your spinners are the best. Thank you, Louise. Thank you. I really love it. It has really changed the way that I bead, that I can, just have the beads in the container and seal it back up, and it is in my project tray. But the way, if you have more than one bead spinner, the way that I've been doing it, I need to take the shaft back out. The way that I've been doing it is I've been using this as a base. And then since I have these other bowls, what I like to do is it's a lot easier for me to interchange between colors. So I would do this, and then I would use the next color, and then I would use the next color like this. It's just a lot more better flow for me than have all of the bead spinners just lined up like this. I like to, I guess, get my beads from the same position, like it's here, so I'm going to get it here instead of going here and then going here and going here for the next color. So I just like to have it in one position. So I'm just going to set these aside like this for the color that I need. Now, if you just have one bead spinner, what you can do is take a cup, dump it out, and then pour in the next color. Where's my, oh, okay, so I have this new cool funnel that I can snap on. And this is not the final funnel. So this was the initial prototype. So, and then you would do this, dump it out, and then pour in the next color. So if you have just one bead spinner, that's what you would do. All right, so I'm going to put these beads back in their spinners because that's how I'm going to use them. All right, and I'm going to put my one spinner right there. I'll be using white first. Okay. All right. And you know what I did? I took my measuring tape and for a different project, and now it's not right next to me. It's not next to me. Let me get my cart of stuff. So I'm going to have to use my ruler instead of my measuring tape. All right, to get started, let me switch screens. Okay, looks like we have Kay joining us from Ohio. Hello, Kay. Thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate you guys joining me live. I always love interacting with you guys live. Love it. Okay, so we have the PDF. So what we're doing, so on page 2 and 3, we are doing wrap loops. We're combining traditional jewelry making techniques with French beaded flowers. Okay, and page 4, we're going to make the toggle clasp. And then page 5 and 8, we're going to make the bracelet and the necklace. So, so we're going to start out with learning how to make some wrap loops using traditional jewelry making techniques. So today we're not only learning how to make French beaded flower jewelry, we're learning jewelry making techniques. And because the silver doesn't show that well on screen, I'll be using a different color. All right, I'll be using green instead, but you at home use whatever neutral color you like. So if you look on page, not 4, I got all my pages mixed up. Okay. So let's look on page 2, and we'll be learning. Now it says we are we're making links, but we are just learning the technique for wrap loops. Okay, so open up to page 2, and I'll be using green wire. Actually, for lengths, might be better to do 24 gauge wire, but because we are using mostly 26, you can also do 26 gauge wire. I'll be showing you on how to do it using 26 gauge wire. Okay, so take your 26 gauge wire and cut 1.5 inch of wire, and that is 3.8 centimeters. All right, let's zoom in here. What's all this stuff here? Okay. So we have our length of wire, and the tools we'll be needing are wire cutters and chain nose pliers and round nose pliers. So that's what we'll need. Our length of wire, chain nose, wire cutters, round nose. Okay. So, and we'll be using these all at the same time. So first, let's take our chain nose and we're going to put the wire, well, hold just in between the wires and bend it at a 90-degree angle. Just like that. So this is what it will look like. And now we're going to take our next tool, our round nose pliers. Place the wire in between the round nose pliers. So that we are learning the technique for wrap loops. Okay. So let's take this end here and fold it over the top barrel of your round nose. So right now this half loop is over the top barrel. We're going to remove that, and this is what it's going to look like. Now with your pliers, now we're going to place that loop. We're going to take the bottom barrel right here and put it through that loop. And close the pliers. Now we're going to take this wire here and fold it across like this. And now let's take the barrel out. And this is what it looks like right now. Okay, so we're done with the round nose. Now let's take our chain nose pliers. Hold on. Place the loop in between the chain nose. Now let's take this wire and just wrap it around, make a coil, make 2 coils. Okay. Wrap it around. And like I said, it's best to use 24 gauge, but we are using a 26 gauge, which is also fine. It's a little bit fiddly. We're just learning the technique. Okay, and I'm just going to scrunch the coils so that they're closed. So this is, I'm going to see if I can zoom in a bit more. Okay. So now we're going to cut the excess wire. There we go. I'm going to reposition this so I can hold the loop with my finger. Take our chain nose and tuck this in. So now we have our 1 wrapped loop. Okay, so, and what I like to do is I like to put a bead right on here. So any color bead you want, I'm going to do yellow. Okay. And now we're going to make another wrap loop up top. So place the chain nose above the bead. Now, a little thing about the chain nose pliers, depending on where you put it, you're going to get like a bigger space right here. So you want to, if you have just regular chain nose pliers, you want to have it at the tip, place it at the tip. If you do it here, I'll show you, right? If you do it here, you'll create a lot bigger space. This is quite exaggerated. You'll create a lot bigger space. And when you make your loop, you're going to have all this space down here, right? So you want to have your pliers at the tip right here as much as you can. There are also more specialized pliers, which you have also seen, my goofy little yellow pliers that I don't have next to me right now, that are more specialized, and it gives you it'll get you a smaller bend. Okay, but if you have just regular pliers, which I do, I will just have it at the tip here, bend it, So that's what it looks like. Next, we are using our round nose. Again, we're going to place the wire in between the round nose pliers. And depending on how big you want to have the wrap loop, the loop, you would place it here, or you can place it here, or place it here. So the further down the pliers that you go, the bigger the loop you'll get. So I just want it just around here, like close to the tip, but not too much. Okay, wrap the wire above the top barrel, remove it. Now take the bottom barrel, place it through the loop, bottom loop. Oh, place the bottom barrel through the half loop. Okay, and now take the wire and bend it across like so. Put our round nose down, take our chain nose, hold on to it, and we're going to take this and wrap it around that wire space and beneath the loop, and pinch. And I'm going to take my cutters, trim the excess, and then tuck this in. So we have about 2 coils here. Depending on your spacing, you might have 3 or 4 because you are using 26 gauge wire. So you can practice with that. So now we have our one link like this. I have one with, so this here I have a larger loop, and this here we have a smaller loop. So there's that. All right, now I'm going to show you how to link that together. So if you are just joining us, we are just learning some basic jewelry techniques that we will use to join our French beaded daisies together. All right, so now I'm going to do another one. I'm just going to do a little bit faster. Bend at 90 degrees. Place this in between our pliers. Wrap it around the top barrel. Remove. Down bottom barrel. And wrap around. And if you are having, so if this is your first time doing wrap loops, don't worry, just need some practice. And you can always watch the replay to redo it. Okay, I'm going to put a bead right here. And next, when I'm making this wrap loop, I'm going to show you how to link the two together. Okay, so it looks like we have Anita, Kay, and Teresa joining us. Hello, good morning, ladies. Thanks for joining me. Love it. Okay. So I'm at this point where on this one, I just closed it, but I'm going to connect these two. So I'm going to take this link and I'm going to, before I close it, I'm going to slide the loop in here like this. Hold on to this loop here that's unclosed, and we're going to make 2 coils around the wire, 2 or 3, depending on how much wire you had left there. And if you're using 26 gauge wire, it's a little bit more finicky. It is a little bit finicky for me. Traditionally, if you were to want to make this, I recommend 24 gauge, but this is just for practice. And I am using green, so it shows a lot better on camera, but you at home, use whatever neutral color you like. So gold, silver, copper. So whatever you like for your jewelry. Okay, so tuck that in your coil. This one's not pretty, but oh well. Okay, so this is what we have, and you can continue doing this, making lots and lots of links. You can like turn it into a chain. You can keep doing this for chains. You can even use, bigger beads like pearls, and create a necklace. And that's how you would do that. Okay, so, and yay, congratulations! You just learned how to make wrap loops. Okay, so, and oh, this is what we made with our wrap loop. So this is what it looked like if you were to use 24 gauge wire, nice and sturdy wrap coils, nice and sturdy coils. And then if you continue making the links, just add them, just keep linking them together and you can get a chain. But we are not making a chain in today's class. That was just to show you the technique. All right, so next we are making a toggle clasp, a French beaded toggle clasp. Okay, so we'll need one main color and then like a color B for a alternate color for, just if you just want to use one color, that's fine. But if you want to use an alternate color for this bead right here, you can do that too. Okay, but for the toggle clasp, you do want to use 22 gauge wire. And if you bought the kit, I did include 22 gauge wire in your kit. So we do want to use 22. In a pinch, okay, this is one of these substitutes that I talk about, right? Substitute wires. You can use 24 gauge wire, but it's going to be a lot more flimsy and might fall off. So it's best to use 22 gauge. It's best to use 22 gauge because it is a lot sturdier. It will last a lot longer than if you were to use 24 gauge. There's a higher likely chance of the toggle clasp coming off if you use 24. But if that's all you have, that's okay. But I do recommend 24. And to do this, we will be using 22 gauge wire and the size 11 green beads. All right, so we're going to take our 22 gauge wire and string on 27 beads onto the spool. If you want to just do it by hand, you can. Okay, so I got some comments here. Let me see. Let me finish this and I'll get to your questions. All right, ladies? It's not so easy to see them from the iPad. So, all right, so we have the beads on the 22 gauge wire, and we're gonna leave a 1-inch tail. That should be plenty. You don't even really need 1 inch. You could get away with less, but if you're a beginner, just leave a little bit more wire than usual. So I have 1-inch wire, and I'm going to count out 27 of the beads here. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 27. And I'm going to make a basic loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on to this end, hold on to this end, make sure that there's no bare wire space in between. And I'm going to cross the wires underneath and twist. So what I like to do is I take my finger, my index finger, and flip it. Put it here, kind of underneath, and flip. However you can get this loop. I know the The loop is the hardest for people. Believe it or not, it is the hardest thing than other techniques that might be hard, they seem harder, right? The loop seems easy, but sometimes it is one of the hardest things for people to just kind of wrap your head around. Okay, so we have our loop. Straighten this top wire out and take this wire. Now, because we're using 22 gauge wire, it's going to be a lot harder to wrap, right? So do the best you can. Wrap around twice to make that coil. So we have 26 gauge wire that is a lot more finicky. And then we have 22 gauge wire that's a little bit harder to work with. So, okay, and but we use the gauge of wire that will give us the most benefit for what we need. Pinch down. And we do want to kind of open this up a bit more. We don't want to pinch this whole this loop down because we want the toggle to go through. And I'm going to put a color B on here. You can use the same color if you want, or you don't have to. I just like the contrast. So now we're going to make our wrap loop. Put the chain nose pliers in between the wire. Bend it at a 90-degree angle. Take our round nose, put in between. I'm going to put it right here because I do want maybe a little bit bigger loop. Bring the wire over the top barrel, remove it. Okay, now put the bottom barrel through and wrap it around horizontally. So we got this. Now we're going to take our chain nose, hold on to the loop, and wrap it around, make our 2 coils. Or not. Actually, depending on what you want to do, you may just want to leave it unwrapped like this. So you can wrap it like this or unwrap like this, depending on how you want to do it when you finish your bracelet or necklace. So it all depends, and you'll see. So if you haven't wrapped it and closed it yet, like I did here, just leave it like this. Okay, leave it unwrapped for now. But I got ahead of myself and I wrapped it, which is also fine. We can use the links that we just learned to link the flowers to the bracelet, or you can leave it unwrapped like this. All right, so I saw some questions. Let me see here. Okay, so Tina says, I have some wire that I thrifted, so I'm not sure if it's copper wire. It's marked 26 silver, gold. It's broken when I tried doing this just now, so I'm guessing it isn't a good quality. It won't work for this class. Well, I mean, if it breaks, then probably not. I mean, I guess I would, Tina, I would try the best that I can. But if it keeps breaking, then I would suggest getting some other wires. You can get 26 gauge wire easily if you're in the US, Joann Fabrics or Michael's Crafts. You can get 26 gauge silver or gold wire easily at those craft stores. So, okay. It looks like we have Angie joining us. Hello, Angie from St. Louis. Okay, and it looks like Natia has a question. Is it possible to make the loops with chain nose pliers? I don't have round nose pliers. I mean, you can try. I don't recommend it. Natia, I do not. It'll be I have kind of done it, but I don't recommend it. It's not pretty. So, but if that's all you have, try to get it as round as you can. But I don't recommend it. Okay, and Tina says, I just need 22 for the actual bracelet. Okay, so yeah, you would need 22 for the toggle part. Mhm. And like I said, in a pinch, you can use 24. Just, you know, for, you know, your temporary use for now, just so that you have the necklace to wear temporarily. But ultimately, I would, because these are so easy to make and so fast to make, switch it out for 22 whenever you can. Okay, now we're going to go on to the second part of the toggle clasp, and we're going to need 30 beads on here. And another thing about 22 gauge wire, it is a lot harder to get beads onto the wire. Okay, I have some beads on here. Hang on. I just need 30 beads. It's hard to get beads onto the wire with 22 gauge wire. Sometimes, depending on the beads, sometimes the holes are bigger, sometimes they're smaller. So just be a little bit more patient with the 22 gauge wire. It might not go on there as fast as you like. Okay, so do I have 30? I want to make sure I do. It looks like I probably have 30, so I didn't count. All right, so now we're going to leave 1 inch, just like we did with the Unit A clasp. So 1 inch, and we have our 30 beads. And we're going to make 2 15 bead loops. So 5, 10, 15. And because, again, we are using a 22 gauge wire, it's not as easy to make our loops. So what I like to do is I like to flip it. I use my index finger and flip. Hold on. You don't want to have any bare wire space. And with this one, we do want to pinch, because this will go through our loop, our toggle loop. And let's do another 15 beads on here. 5, 10, 15. And we want to make another loop. Just have just a small, tiny bit of space to make our twist, right, for the loop. And again, I like to flip. So this project is an intermediate project for the flowers, but the toggle clasp is a beginner-friendly technique. Ooh, drop my stuff. Okay, so take our working wire and just wrap it around the tail wire again. Wrap around, make our 2 coils. And because it is 22 gauge wire, it is a little bit harder to work with. Wrap it around as best as you can, and then we're going to finagle that coil there. So take this and tuck. Okay, almost there. All right, so now you would take this and it will go through this loop here, like a toggle. And that's how your jewelry will stay. And I'm going to make our wrap looped over here. I'm going to put a yellow bead right on this here. And make our wrap loop. I'm going to not finish the loop. Remind me not to finish the loop. Okay. Wrap it around. And I'm not going to finish it. I can, but it just, if I don't finish it, it just gives me a lot more options later, depending on what I want to do. So I'm not going to finish it. Okay, so we have our toggles, set that aside. Woo, yay. Now we are going to make our daisies. So I'm going to make our little daisies for our bracelets. And as you can see, I have one wrapped, and I have one unwrapped loop. So that's how I'm going to connect them. I'm going to connect them like this. And as you can see, this is the daisy. The daisy units are all on one wire. So we'll be using, like I said, 26 gauge wire, but I'll be using green. But you at home use, your neutral color. I'm using green, so it shows a lot better here. Okay. Okay, page 5. All right, go to page 5. And we'll be needing 21 inches of wire. Now, when a note about the length of wires that I call for in patterns, usually I have you cut more than you need than just the actual amount. I have you cut more than you need. So after you do your first unit and you figure out, hey, I actually do need less wire, then you can adjust the length that you need, because you really don't need 21 inches. But sometimes, depending on, how we bead, sometimes and also the size of beads will determine the length of wire that you'll need. If you use a larger bead, you'll need more wire than if you were to use a smaller bead. Some bead brands are smaller and some bead brands are bigger. So I do have you cut, on my patterns, I do have you cut more wire than not. So after you make your first unit and you have the length of wire for your beads and for your beading style, then you can make the adjustment of, okay, I need to cut 18 inches of wire instead of 21. So I do have you cut maybe about 2 to 3 inches more. All right, so let's do, for the sake of this video, I will do 21 because that's what I wrote down. So 20, 21. So I have 21 inches of wire here, which is what? 53.3 centimeters of wire. And what color? I'll use white, or, well, I'll use the colors that we need. Like, why am I using white? Okay, so first we'll start out with the center. And let's make a loop at the end here. And we're going to do a 1 bead basic frame. I'm just going to put 1 bead in here. You don't need a bead spinner to put 1 bead on here, okay? That's a little bit excessive, but that's what I'm about. Okay, and so we have our, this is color B. So our center color, make a 1 bead basic with color B with 1.5 inch top basic wire. So 1.5 inch. So that's this much. That is 3.8 centimeters, and a 3/4 inch twisted wire and loop. So you don't need a lot here. So 3/4 inch right this way. Okay. You don't need to twist a lot because we're just making 2 wraps for the center. Gosh, words are hard. Okay, so now we are going to make 2 rows with rounded tops and rounded bottoms. And again, you may not necessarily need a bead spinner for this either, but you know. So this. Now, and as you guys know, with French beaded flowers, we don't really count beads besides the first row, which is the center row. But if there is if it's a 1 bead basic, sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. And for me, I have 3 beads for the second row here, and I'm going to make a rounded top. And a rounded bottom. And again, for those of you that are just joining me, I'm using green just so that it shows a lot better on camera. Use a neutral color for you, okay? So I'm switching to white. So after we made the first 3 rows, I'm switching to white and we'll be making the petals. For the petals, we'll need 7 bead continuous loops. We're going to do 10 loops. So string a bunch of beads on. I don't know how much you need, but just a bunch. You can always string more. And I'm just going to make a knot at the end. So we have the beads here, and we're going to make, now, the pattern is written so that there's 10 7-bead continuous loops. And so you'll want to make 5 loops on this side of the center, and then you want to make 5 loops on this side. So when the pattern says 10, you divide that in half, 5 on one side, 5 on the other, like that. So just want to clarify that. And we'll be making the loops at this point. And we'll count out 7 beads. And because this is a smaller loop with 7 beads, it can be a little bit harder for you guys to make the loop. The first loop especially, because it is a smaller loop. So we're going to hold on to this, and twist, flip it. I like to flip. Okay, hold on. Put the unit over your finger here. So I am holding onto it like this with my finger and my thumb like this, and you can pull on this wire here to make sure that it's nice and secure, that there's no bare wire space. Okay, and twist, twist, twist twice. So now we have our first loop. Now let's do our second one. 7 beads. We need to have a little bit of space in between, like maybe 2-3 millimeters. Hold on to here. Hold on to this end. And I like to flip. Hold on to it and adjust like this. And then I'm going to move my thumb so I can see. And then I'm going to take I'm going to pull onto this wire here so that it reduces the bare wire space, and twist. Yeah. And now I'm going to keep going. Now with here, you don't want to have too much space in between your loops. You want to minimize the amount of space in your loops. In other patterns, it's no big deal. But with here, you want to have as little space as you can. As you can see, I do have space, maybe like a millimeter or two in between. It's okay. But you can't avoid having space in between your loops, but minimize those big gaps as much as you can. Have your finger underneath the unit to brace it as you twist. Okay, so I'm gonna, if you see like there might be bare wire space, pull on the working wire and twist. I know it's a small loop, so it gets easier when you make the bigger loops. If you want, you can make a bigger loop. You can make a 10 beat loop, and that's fine. I give you permission. You don't want to make a 7 beat loop? That's fine. Make a 10 beat loop. It might be easier. Okay, so I'm going to take this. We want to have this part here, the wire, underneath the center. So we don't want to have the wire like this. We want to have the wire kind of underneath the center so it's not seen. Okay, so position it so that it's underneath the wire. So when you look to the back, it's kind of over the center a little bit, over the back of the center, just a little bit, just slight overlap. And then we're going to wrap it around the top basic wire. Okay, so now we have our row with just loops. And let's continue with the other side. Okay, pull. Oh, pull too much. Okay, I'm going to need some more beads. Okay. 7 beads. Again, put it over your finger. Have your finger and thumb do most of the work. Hold on to the wire and twist to make our loop. Right, so now we have our second row of loops. I'm going to remove the excess beads here. Fixing this here so it's nice and, not a mess. Okay, again, we want to have position this row here slightly underneath the center. We don't want to see those wires, right? Slightly under the center, and wrap it around the twisted wire to finish our flower. So now here we have our center and also the petals. Okay, yay! Isn't this fun? All right, so I'm going to undo the top loop and undo any twists in the twisted wire. We are ready to make our calyx. So undo any of the twisted wires here. And now we want to cut our loop. So let's take your cutters here and we're going to cut just right here. We're going to leave one long wire here, twist or one of our bottom wires here. We're going to take this wire and we're going to fold it down like we would normally when we're doing beaded flowers, right? We're just going to fold it down like this. Okay, so now we have this wire and we have this wire, and then we have our working wire. So we have our 3 wires right here. So now let's take our 2 bottom wires. We're going to bend it along the center and then take the wire and bend it up away from the center like this. Do this also. Bend this towards the center and then butterfingers, and then bend it up. So this is what what it looks like if we were to insert it into something, right? But we're not doing that. So now let's take our working wire and also bend it towards the center where the other 2 wires are. Now we're going to take the working wire and wrap it around the 2 wires, the 2 center wires like this. Just wrap it around a couple times. Make sure it's in the center. So if it's not in the center, just pull it so that it's in the center as best as you can, right? As best as you can get in the center. So we have our 2 wires sticking out like this, and then we have our working wire wrapped around the 2 tail wires. All right, next we are switching colors. We're going to do our calyx. Let me get to the right page. We are on to page 6, working on the calyx. Now let's string on a bunch of beads onto the calyx, onto the working wire. You don't need too much. Maybe a little more. Better to have more than less. Okay. So now at this point, you've guessed it, we're making some loops. So bend the working wire, just bend it away so it's not in your way. Hold on to the center part like this, and we're just going to make some 7 bead loops. We're going to make 5 7 bead loops. So 5 7 bead loops. Okay. Hold on to this here, hold on to this here. Make sure it's nice and, taut, no bare wire space, and make our loop. Again, if it's hard for you to do a 7 bead loop, do a bigger loop. Do a 10 bead loop. This is your practice one. It does not have to be perfect for the first one. Okay. You can always come back and watch the replay and practice. So 7 bead loop, some bare wire space in between. Hold on like this and twist. Flip. Okay. Hold on to it like this. It's just like flat against the flower. I'm just gonna take my nail and just hold on to it like this, and flip, cross the wires. That's how I'm holding on to it. And twist. 2 more. Normally, this daisy is a beginner level project, but because all of this is onto, okay, so this is not so great. I need to undo it and redo it because I have some bare wire space in between. So I didn't hold on to it tight enough. And like I was saying, normally this would be a beginner level project, but because it's all on one wire and there's so much precision that you need, it is an intermediate level project. All right. I strung on enough. I just had one excess bead, which is pretty good. Put your nail underneath the cross. Hold on to it like this. And twist. Okay, I'm going to remove the excess bead. Okay, so let's put the 2 tail wires back. Oh, actually, no, we don't want that here. Put them like, again, so have it back where it was, where I showed you. Okay, so now let's take the working wire and we're going to wrap it around underneath the calyx. So like this. Just going to wrap it around, like in between the petals and the calyx. So we're just going to go like this and wrap it around. You can hold on to the center and pull onto the working wire. Wrap it around a few times. Make sure it's nice and secure. All right, so we have this working wire. Now, it does not need to be this long. This is what I was telling you about, right? That I kind of give you an extra 2 to 3 inches of additional wire, depending on bead sizes and whatnot. But you can get away with 19 inches of wire. I can get away with 19 inches of wire with the beads that I'm using. So for your future units, I would just use 19 inches instead of 21 inches. Okay, so now we have these 3 wires, and this is what we're going to do, what we're going to use to do the connections. So depending on how we are using the unit is how we're going to finish the tail wires. I'm going to make right here, I'm going to make 2 wrap loops right here. So I'm not going to use one of the tail wires. For some units, you can have, where's this here? I'm going to show you. For this necklace with the focal, I want to have the wrapped loops at 3 different points. At this point, this point, and this point. So I'll be using the 3 wires. But if you are not using all 3 wires, we're just going to get rid of one of them. Okay. So with this, we'll just get rid of the working wire. And just trim the working wire and tuck this in. So that's nice and secure. And now we're going to finish these. We're going to use these 2 working wires. And look at the front here. Determine determine where you want to have the wrap loops. I want to have a wrap loop right here, and I want to have a wrap loop right here. So I'm going to position my wires where I want the wrap loop to be. So hang on. Okay. We do want to make our wrap loops by a calyx unit or one of these green loops. Okay, we want to have the wrap loop by a green beaded loop. So right here, position the working wire, one of the tail wires like this, place it flat against your green beaded loop. Okay, hold on to that. And now we're going to take our wire, bend it towards the back of the loop or the outer side of the loop. I guess they can all be the back, right? So we have the inner side of the loop, and then we have the outer side of the loop, the outside of the loop. Right here, we're essentially doing a crossover kind of. Okay, so have it cross over to the back side of the loop, and we're going to insert the wire underneath the loop and take your pliers and pull it, kind of making a knot. Okay, so let's do it on this side too. I'm going to show you again here. I want to have the wrap loop by this green loop. So right here, place it flat against this loop. Hold on to the wire. Bring the wire underneath the loop and take our pliers and pull the wire up. So it's kind of like a crossover. All right, and we are done, and we are ready to connect our daisies. Okay, so let's make our wrap loops. I'm going to put a contrasting bead right here. Actually, no, I'm not using a contrasting bead. I'm using 2 greens. You want to add two of the green beads on here. We need to have that extra space. So for here, we need 2. Right, and let's make a wrap loop. Okay. So I have 3 coils here, which is fine. 2 to 3. And pinch down. And we want to make 1 wrap loop and then 1 that's kind of partially wrapped. Okay, let's add 2 more beads on here. Chain nose. And partial loop. All right, now we are ready to connect it all together. So I have all of these made. And also a tip with making your units. What you can do after you make the first one and you figure out, okay, so whatever length of wire you need is the length of wire that you need. You can kind of do it assembly style. So first, you use the yellow beads to make the centers. Make 5 centers. on that wire, and then you go on and make the petals all at once, and then you go and make the calyx all at once, and then so that you're finishing it, so you're not switching back and forth between three colors all the dang time, right? So that's what I like to do after you've kind of just, I guess a con with that, which I also did, is if you make a mistake with one, you can make a mistake with all of them, which I did. So, tip, and also make sure you follow the pattern. So, yeah, it could also save you time or make you lose a lot of time, which it did with me. So, there's that. Okay, so for me, I have a small wrist, so I only need 5 flowers. Um, just so make enough units so that it'll go around your wrist. Okay, so again, connect these flowers. Where's the, I should have one that's all done. Nope. Okay, so I'm just going to connect these. So I connected these. Let's do this. I'm going to finish one of them. This is partially done, so I'm going to finish making the wrap loop. And now you take your next one. That's one done and then partially done, and we're going to connect it. So like this. This one, it looks like my wire here, it's too long. I don't want that. So I'm going to redo it. If it's too long, you have too many coils, too long of a coil, and I don't want that. So I'm going to redo it. Have it at the tip. Oh, and oh, you know why it's like that? I'm missing 2 beads. That's why. It's been a while since I made this, so the beads fell out. Okay, so now it should be okay. If you are making all of these without wrapping the loops, make sure that you don't lose your beads. Okay, so I'm going to connect it. Take this and slide it on to the partial loop. With your pliers, hold on to the loop here and wrap 2 or 3 times. Cut. All right, let's finish attaching the rest. Hold on here and sometimes you have more coils. Because it is 26 gauge wire, you can't just have your perfect 2 coils. Right. It's not ideal for the coils to use 26. But what can you do? It's best for the flowers. Okay. I'm missing 2 beads here. And one more. Okay, not a pretty coil. Okay, I have to undo it a little bit. Okay, so here we have our bracelet. Okay, see. Okay, so we have that. Well, the coil, I mean, now we gotta determine, will the toggle be enough to close the gap in between? I think maybe. I don't remember since the last time I made it. Maybe. And with here, this is the reason why I didn't finish the toggle, is because you may be able to close the gap using some links. If you don't want to make another flower, just create some links here. So you can put a link in between the toggles to create just a little bit more space in between. So that's probably what I'll do. Or I think that may be enough space. That may be enough space. Now the advantage of using the links in between a toggle, a toggle and a flower is that if you make a mistake, you cut your link instead of your flower unit. That takes a lot longer to make, right? So that's an advantage. You don't want to spend all that time making a flower. You accidentally connect some things, and then now you cut it, and you got to remake a whole flower. But if you use a link, you make a mistake of connecting, then you are just cutting the link, which takes practically no time to make, like a minute or so, versus a flower that takes, 10, 20 minutes to make, depending on your comfort level with making the units here. So that's the advantage of using a link in between connecting the units here. So that's what I'll do. And if you have scrap wires, you can use your scrap wires to make your links, which I do. Okay, I'm going to make this here and connect it to the flower unit. Now, if you just want to attach the toggle to the flower, that's also fine too. And again, that depends on the length of the unit, the length of the bracelet. I'm putting a contrasting bead, a yellow bead on here. And I'm going to put this. Okay, so now we got to think about, okay, how logistically, how am I going to put this bracelet on? Do I want to use this part on this? I think I want to use the loop part on this. You know what? I think either way it'll work. So I'm going to put this on here. Either way, you can kind of flip it. So it should be okay. No big deal. Hold on to it and connect our toggle. So now this part here, and again, you can connect it together like this, or you can use a link. Since I used the link here, I will use a link here. This might be a little bit too long for me using the links, but I just wanted to show you guys that's an option. Okay. So let's make a linky link. You can use it to extend your bracelet, so you don't have to make an extra flower unit. Or you can make it as a kind of like a precaution in case you attach two units together that you probably might make a mistake. Then you will cut just the link instead of your unit that takes a lot longer to make. I'm going to close this here since this one is unclosed. And I'm going to take the clasp unit and link it together. And 22 gauge wire for the clasp. All right, all done. Okay, let's put it on. And if you see that some of the flowers are kind of like, you see the back kind of turning, adjust the loops so that they're all facing like, so if when you see that they're kind of flipping, the issue are the loops. Make sure they're nice and kind of flat so they're not all turning. Okay. On. And you should be able to put the clasp on. It's harder to put a bracelet on by yourself. Okay. All right, here we go. And it is a bit longer on me. I think I may remove the links, and I may need to do another, because I'm cutting the links, I'm going to need to do another clasp, make another clasp and attach it straight onto the flower, but it's no big deal. It's pretty fast to make, to toggle clasps. Looks like we have Bina joining us from Pakistan. Hello, thank you for joining me today. I hope you make this bracelet. Okay. So pretty fast project to make. And this is how you make French beaded flower jewelry without all of the bulk that is in how we have made French beaded flowers jewelry before. When I used to make jewelry, we would use, like those, was it perforated discs, and then you would use glue, all sorts of things to deal with the wires. So now we don't have to deal with all that. Okay, I'm going to stay on. Well, that concludes our class for today. So let me know what you guys are at, what you're still working on. Probably the flowers. You're still working on the flowers. So let me know if you have any questions. I'll stay on just a little bit more to answer any of your questions here. So, and next week we'll be making the. Let me change the screen here. Next week, we'll be working on the necklace. Similar concept as the bracelet, but just a little bit more, bigger flowers. And also, we'll be working on the toggle clasp as well. Let me take this off here. And now, if you put it on a flat surface, it's not gonna look pretty, but I promise it looks better. It looks better when you put it on yourself, and when you put it on a jewelry. What do you call this? Mannequin thingy. Okay. All right, so if there are no more questions, I will conclude the class right here. I appreciate all of you joining me today to make this French beaded flower bracelet, and also learning how to make the toggle clasp. So very excited to share with you today. Yeah. Next week, we will be making the necklace. So what day? What day? Let me look on the calendar. The next class will be on the 24th, and then the last class will be on the 29th. I originally scheduled the ring for the 31st, but I scheduled it before my son came home with a permission slip and said, we have a field trip. So I'll be going on a field trip with him instead of here. So I rescheduled it. So yeah, I forgot where we're going. Oh, we're going to the Children's Museum. So I'll be at the Children's Museum on the 31st. And so I will be doing the ring on the 29th instead. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. I will see you next week for the French beaded necklace. And you can still get the PDF or kit. You can get the free PDF at the Learn How to Make French Beaded Flowers Facebook group. You can get the, if you are on my mailing list, I emailed you the first part of the PDF. If you'd like to purchase the PDF for continued access for the replay, you can find the link in the description. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today, and I'll see you next week. Bye.